What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bringing your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. I didn't have a video last week because the Nets were so disgustingly bad. I felt so disgusted just wearing the jersey, and it was just really bad. I just didn't want to do any NetsBoys last week because of the fact that the team was just terrible. They're still relatively terrible, but I figured I can't go 2 weeks without a NetsBoy, and what kind of fan would that be if I just could stop the NetsBoy videos because the Nets are playing like crap? Besides, I think they're more entertaining when I'm pissed off, right? That's usually the way it is. But here it is. It's March 15th. Well, actually, March 16th. Excuse me. Yesterday was March 15th. March 16th. And the Nets just snapped a 5-game losing streak after they had a great win. Great win over the Warriors. They just lost 5 straight. Luckily, they snapped it against the 76ers. But even that was a struggle. So, I mean, this team is so frustrating to watch because the talent is there, but it's just not. Brook Lopez has been the only player who's consistently played relatively well throughout all these games. Brook Lopez has been putting up, at least 18 points a game every time. He's able to put up, he's been getting a lot of rebounds. He's had, 4 double-doubles or something in the last, 5 games or something. He's getting a lot of rebounds, which is something he doesn't normally do. He's averaging, 18 points a game, 9 rebounds. He's playing fantastic. He's the only one, though. Thaddeus Young has played good at times and then fades off a little bit, but he's relatively playing well. And that's about it. Deron Williams, I don't know what happened to the guy. After he played 3 good games, he's just fallen off the face of the earth again. Just like he did at the beginning of the year. Played well at the beginning of the year and then fell off the face of the earth. All-Star break, plays well at the beginning of All-Star break and falls off the face of the earth. I don't know. Joe Johnson, I don't know what the hell his problem is. It seems like doing anything productive is against his train of thought right now. He's turning the ball over. He's making dumb shots. He's not making open shots. He's just been a disaster. Remember my equation. 3 Nets need to play well. Deron Williams, Joe Johnson, Brook Lopez. The 3 Nets need to play well for them to win games. When they don't play well and no one steps up in other situations to fills the void of I'm not playing well, the Nets struggle, and that's what's going on right now. Deron Williams has been playing like crap. Joe Johnson's been playing like crap. Brook Lopez, the only one who's playing well. Thaddeus Young, he's playing pretty good. He's kind of make up for one of those two, but that's it. Plumlee. Apparently, if Plumlee's not always involved in the offense, he's not that good. I mean, he's still playing all right. He's still getting some rebounds and dunking the ball. I mean, but like I said, Lionel Hollins finally started Brook Lopez, and the truth is Brook Lopez is better than Plumlee, and he should be starting ahead of Plumlee. I don't know why everyone got so excited about Plumlee. You know my rant about him. Plumlee's doing okay. Jarrett Jack has glimpses of being good, but I mean, this team just really is inconsistent and bad. I mean, you look at these losses. These are teams... Charlotte, you can't lose to Charlotte. You're competing with them. Phoenix, that team is considered terrible. The Utah, New Orleans, you can kind of say, okay, whatever. Same thing with Miami. Finally, they beat Philadelphia, but like I said, that wasn't even a walk in the park. I mean, they're 3 games out of the playoffs, and there's only 18 games left to go. They can't be going the wrong way. And the problem is, I mean, the way this team's playing, I don't see how they could make the playoffs. And that's ridiculous to say because the teams ahead of them, to me, are not better than them. The Celtics. I don't think the Celtics are better than the Nets. I've said a million times I don't think the Heat are better than the Nets, even though I think the Heat swept the Nets, and they did. I've been saying from day one I don't think the Heat are better than the Nets, but they sure is playing better. Same thing with So, whatever there, especially without Chris Bosh. I mean, yeah, I know Dragic is good and Dwayne Wade is good and Dang is good, but I would still assume the Nets would be a better team. But nope, Heat swept them. The Celtics are ahead of the Nets. I would never hoped the Celtics would ever be better than the Nets. I mean, I could never imagine that, but apparently they are. I really don't think the Pacers without Paul George, because he's not back yet. I wouldn't assume the Pacers are better than the Nets, but they're ahead of them. The Hornets, I wouldn't expect them to be better than the Nets. Well, no, I still wouldn't expect them to be better than the Nets, but they are. Hell, I don't even consider Milwaukee should be better than the Nets, but they are. Look, this Nets team they're a great example of a team that looks decent on paper. I don't want to say good, but decent on paper, and just playing like crap. And it's really because Deron Williams and Joe Johnson can't do anything anymore. Those two guys are key. Brook Lopez, good job. You're doing what you want to do. You're playing well. You're scoring well. You're getting rebounds. You're being effective on defensive end. That's great. But Brook Lopez, no matter how good he plays, he's still not good enough to carry a team single-handedly. He needs help from someone else. Thaddeus Young played fantastic against the 76ers. That's why they were able to beat the 76ers. That and the fact the 76ers are the 76ers. So that's why they were able to win that game. But really, if no one else steps it up for the Nets, they're not going to make the playoffs. Joe Johnson, I don't know what the hell happened to him. He's averaging, I think, like 7 points a game since the All-Star break or something like that. Deron Williams has glimpses of talent, but he fades away, and someone needs to step up. Someone really needs to step up because this is getting ridiculous right now. The Nets are 3 games back with 18 to go. Normally that's a little bit of a tough feat considering that they have to jump 3 teams. But considering how all those teams are just crammed against each other, I think it's certainly possible. I would not write off the Nets just yet, but they are close. They are close. I think the Nets are a 3-game losing streak away from really being out of the playoffs, and that would be crushing. I mean, this team should not make the playoffs. This team should make the playoffs. Let me word it that way. This team should make the playoffs, okay? And in weak Eastern Conference, there is no reason why this Nets team should not be a playoff team. They have playoff talent, in my opinion. They have 3 All-Stars on this team, 3 guys who have all been All-Stars, Deron Williams, Joe Johnson, Brook Lopez. And I wouldn't expect any of those guys to be quote-unquote out of their prime. So you got 3 All-Stars on this team. I mean, I can't quite pinpoint the logic behind why this team is this bad, other than the fact that Deron Williams and Joe Johnson just vanish off the face of the earth. So that being said, the Nets if you watch them play these last few games, they've just seemed so out of whack. They're in these games. I mean, they've been in every game except for the Hornets game. That Hornets game wasn't even close. They got blown up by then, but they were in the Suns game, but they just couldn't execute well down the stretch. Same thing against the Jazz game. They're in, couldn't execute. The Pelicans, that became a little bit more of a blowout as well. But the Heat, same thing. In the game, couldn't execute down the stretch. Their execution down the stretch has been what's biting them. And it's because they just, the truth is, because they go to Joe Johnson, and Joe Johnson hasn't been the same type of player. Then they try going to Jarrett Jack. And even though Jarrett Jack has had the game winner against Golden State, and he has had a couple other big shots, he's still too inconsistent of a player to rely on down the stretch of games. It used to be Joe Johnson, but now that Joe Johnson can't seem to find the abilities to play basketball again, it needs to be someone else. So that's what they've got to do. They've got to find a new go-to guy down the stretch of games, or stick with Joe Johnson or Jarrett Jack and just hope that they start continuously play the way they're supposed to. I mean, really, Deron Williams was always supposed to be that guy. Deron Williams and Joe Johnson were supposed to be the guys down the stretch of games. Deron Williams, I'm sick of both of them. I mean, if I was Billy King this offseason, I would blow up this team except for, I would literally trade everyone. Well, I wouldn't say I would trade everyone, but I would basically see to get rid of everyone, or have everyone available except for Brook Lopez, obviously, Thaddeus Young, Markel Brown, Corey Jefferson, and Mirza Teletovic. Mirza Teletovic will probably re-sign with Brooklyn next season. Everyone else, the Nets can get rid of. Everyone else. Now, I also do like Allen Anderson. I would like them to try to keep him. But Joe Johnson, gone. And like I said, if you remember, I had a video around the trade deadline about a trade that I would like to see Billy King try to do with Sacramento to bring in Rudy Gay, because Joe Johnson's contract would be an expiring contract after this season, and the Kings aren't going anywhere. I know they think they are, but look at that team. They're not going anywhere. They just tied in Rudy Gay for 4 years or 5 years. That's a dumb contract. They're going to be looking for ways out this offseason. I would do that trade, just saying. I would say, hey, we got Joe Johnson. Yes, he's got a really big contract, but it's an expiring contract. You get yourself out of Rudy Gay's deal. I would do that in a heartbeat this offseason. Joe Johnson, trade with Joe Johnson and any other player in any other deal to get Rudy Gay. Like I said, I would do that in a heartbeat. And I think the Nets should be able to do that. Deron Williams, I would like to try to trade him too. I don't know any team that would take Deron Williams at this point. His contract's too big. It's not an expiring deal, and he's been way too inconsistent. But Plumlee, look, I don't want Plumlee to necessarily be traded, but if they could get someone really good value, like for instance, I've said this a couple other times, if the only thing that stops the Nets from getting a Rudy Gay in that deal, say Billy King calls and says, because this is actually a trade that I've looked at several times on, the trade machine and 2K games and just all those things. Mostly the trade machine gives you a little bit more of a better... Well, the 2K game actually gives you a pretty good understanding of what teams would do or what's considered a fair trade on paper. If it means getting Rudy Gay, I would trade Mason Plumlee. I would trade Joe Johnson and Mason Plumlee for Rudy Gay and Jason Thompson, or Rudy Gay and Carl Landry, or Rudy Gay and whatever other contracts to fill up the void. Because if the only thing that stops a deal like that from happening is the Nets not wanting to trade Mason Plumlee, I would slap Billy King across the face. So I'm okay with Plumlee going. I'm okay with Jack going, and Jack's played very well. Jerry Jack and Alan Anderson would be two guys I would be more reluctant to trade, but if it meant bringing in a really good player, I wouldn't mind trading him. But the point that I'm trying to say is this Nets team is crap now. The way they're playing, they are crap. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs the way they're playing. Maybe they will shock me. Remember, I was all high and mighty on this team 2 weeks ago when they beat when they managed to beat the Warriors. I was like, I'm spying this Nets team. They look great, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that, and then lose 5 straight. So, it seems to be whatever I think the Nets will do is seeming to be doing the opposite. So remember, beginning of the year, I picked them as the number 3 team in the Eastern Conference. And they're looking like they're going to be the number 3 team from the bottom in the Eastern Conference. So I'm right now I'm selling the Nets. NetsBoy's flip-flopping a lot, but can you blame them? Look how this team's playing these last few games. Now I'm selling the Nets. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, which is really disappointing. But who knows? Anything could happen. That being said, let's look at the next 3 games, okay? They got the Timberwolves. Just like they just beat the 76ers, they've got to beat the Timberwolves, okay? It's inexcusable if they do not beat the Timberwolves. They got the Timberwolves. That should be a win. Then they got the Cavaliers. That will probably be a loss. But, if you beat the Warriors, you can beat the Cavaliers, but that'll probably be a loss. Then they got the Bucks. I think the Nets are better than the Bucks. So I'm going to say that's a win, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's a loss. And same thing with the game after that, the Pacers. I think the Nets are better than the Pacers. I think it should be a win. It could very easily be a loss the way this Nets team is playing. The Nets need to go 3-1 these next 4 games. And that is really the key. If they do not go 3-1 the next 3 games, I think that they got no chance of making the playoffs. If they go 2-2, they'll still have a chance. If they go 1-3 or 0-4, they're out. They're out. Simple as that. They got no chance. But really, they should go 3-1. They really should. They really should. That being said, I don't know. Joe Johnson and Deron Williams are both absolutely terrible now, and it's kind of pathetic. And if the Nets don't make the playoffs, I want the whole team except for Joe Johnson. The whole team except for Brook Lopez, Mirza Teletovic, Markel Brown, um, Corey Jefferson, and Thaddeus Young. I want everyone else off the team because everyone else is pieces of crap. Simple as that. Anyway, so let's see what happens. Hopefully, hopefully, hopefully the Nets can turn this around, or else I'm going to be starting looking forward to baseball season. Well, even then, I don't feel like I have a lot to look forward to, being that I'm a Yankees fan, and I have no idea what the Yankees are going to be this year. They could have a team average of 150 with the offense they have this year, but who knows? Hopefully, well, that's baseball. We're not going to get into that. But anyway, till next week, this is NetsBoy, signing off.